Hello, everyone. Welcome to our conversation, Mindset of a Leader. I am Trena Bolden Fields. I am your dream catalyst. I'm a coach, strategist, and therapist, and I'm excited to be joined by Dr. Kristin Morris, who is a transformational leader, CEO, founder of her own business. And welcome, Dr. Kristin. It is so wonderful to have you here live with me.
Hello, hello. I know it's great to be live. This is some fun stuff. I've never been live, and so I'm looking forward to it. I think it's just a conversation between friends, and I'm happy to share what I know.
Definitely, definitely. And I just want to say for those of you who are tuning in live, and you have questions and things of that nature, I want to give you an opportunity to ask them throughout our conversation. So make sure you pop them in the comment section, and I should be able to see them as we go through. And if not, you know that I'll pop back on and answer these questions. But I'm looking forward to this conversation because I think it's a really important one. Mindset and being a leader, right? And the mindset of the leader and how that impacts the work that we put out there. And so, this is why we want to have this conversation. Number one, it truly matters. It impacts your team and your ability to innovate, right? And create all the things that you're looking to create in work within an organization. And so I want to check in with you, Dr. Kristen, to see what you have to share about that. And then I know we're going to get into deeper into the conversation.
What I'll say is, and I was just talking to students yesterday at the university I teach at, and mindset is so critical, and not only just for you leading in an organization, but just in general, is how you show up and what lens are you using to get
Hmm.
ready for your day, to get ready to do the work that you have been called to do, and understanding your purpose and really aligning your mind, your body, your soul to that purpose and showing up as authentically and as intentionally as you can. And so mindset is just key. That's
Hmm.
why I work out in the morning to get my mind right, right? To
Yeah.
settle my nervous system,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And we were just talking about that, you all,
Yeah.
before we hopped on live. It's about that workout. Um, and I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit, if you have a definition of leadership and mindset or leadership mindset, like, do you have a definition that pulls those things together?
As I think about leadership, one of the things I'm sort of jumping ahead as I think about how we show up as leaders. But
Mhm.
my goal, as I know it to be true with my lived experience in the workplace and just personally, it is, how do I want to transform and transcend? And so for
Mhm.
me, how I'm defining my leadership style as one that's transformational, but then also not only being transformational and not transactional, it is making sure that I'm creating the conditions. It is making sure that I am creating the environment that will be conducive for people to do their best work. And
Mhm.
so, as I define it, as I know it to be true, as I've helped leaders, that is how I'm showing up to define it. And it takes intentionality, and it takes a consistency in mindset. It
Yeah.
takes a willingness and a sense of awareness. And so,
Right.
as I think about defining that, I think it holds true for different people, what that means to them. But
Mhm.
at the core of what I do, it is that alignment, it is intentionality, it is awareness of myself, how
Yeah.
I'm showing up, right?
Yeah.
And my impact on others.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
because it's that how intentional you're setting up that
Yes.
intention, you're aware, right? You're putting yourself in this way of being, this way of thinking. And I get it, and I like to think about it too as like it's a set of internal beliefs that
Yeah.
play out, right?
Hmm.
And you talked about that awareness, which is so important. So as a leader, you have to be aware of what's happening,
You
going
do.
on for you internally, of what you're believing, how you're showing up, which is what you shared, right?
Mhm.
And the perspectives that you have about the work, about the others that you're bringing into the workplace, because
Mm,
that all of that shapes
it
the
does.
work. It shapes how you interact with your team. It shapes what you're innovating or creating within an organization.
I have a really good friend who talks about checking in with my body. How am I feeling? Right. And so
Mhm,
when
mhm,
I am experiencing discomfort, I am not going to show up as my best self. And so
mhm.
really being attuned to how I'm feeling is critical. So
Yeah,
key.
it is so key. It
It
is
is.
so key. That attunement, and you talked about that you do it in getting in it at the workout in the morning,
Got to
right?
get it
And
in.
early, and setting the stage for that.
That's right.
I'm wondering how does that help you, and I have, like, a bunch of other things, but what's popping up for me right now is how does that help you with your perception, and being present and relating to other people when you're taking care of yourself in that way?
So part of I can overanalyze a situation. Give me something and I'm going to overanalyze it and internalize it.
Yeah,
Right? And
yeah.
so I am really working hard to not do that. And part of what I'm focusing on is for me, working out reduces any anxiety, any discomfort that I may have. And when I am on that treadmill or lifting weights, I can zone out and think about clearly my day. I can think
Mhm,
about clearly the decisions that I need to make. And so it is my time to not only release any tension and anxiety and any nervousness that may build up, it's also an opportunity for me to just go, okay, what happened the day before? What's happening now? What am I going to be faced with? And how am I going to show up?
yeah,
And so for me, it's a release.
yeah,
It is getting all of that energy out so that I can
yeah,
show up fully present.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a part of
Mhm.
that self-care.
It is. It's
Yeah.
non-negotiable for me.
Yeah, definitely, I get
Yeah.
it. Um, and and it that non-negotiable and stepping into that way of being as a leader, I think is really important because there are key things that, people talk about KPIs. They talk
Yes.
about, you have that for yourself, right? And putting your self in the place as a leader of making sure that you're hitting the goals that you set for yourself or showing up for yourself first initially, I
Mhm.
think it's most important. It's a part about being an example for other people as well in the work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those internal and personal KPIs
Mhm,
allow me to measure how well I'm showing up for myself so then I can be visible for others and show up for others and lift up others and make sure that I am being impactful and
mhm,
just thinking about that transformation and what it takes to not only be transformational but inspire folks to do their best work. I think that's
mhm.
the biggest piece too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Really, definitely. And what I wanna do is ask you about a little bit more about why do you believe mindset is important and critical, especially now in
Mhm.
today's organizational climate? So I would love to hear your answer to that question.
Yeah, and so part of how I have really evolved in terms of my mindset and how I show up and what that alignment looks like actually started not with the work that I was doing, but evolving as a parent with my kids.
Mhm,
And so one of the things that I had to do was to truly determine, as I think about equity with
mhm,
our 4 kiddos, I can't parent them the same. They
mhm,
need something different. And so I needed to tap into conscious parenting to understand what my lived experience is, how I've
mhm.
shown up, and what my assumptions are. And so, through that conscious lens of parenting, I actually started to break down more of who I was,
Yeah.
what I'm aligned with, what are my beliefs, what are my values. And so, that journey for me transcended into then my leadership because now I'm going, so I know that this is an awareness as a parent, right? But now I'm having an awakening and an awareness as a leader and how I need to show up because now I'm understanding intimately who Kristen is.
Mhm,
And so then that allowed me to take a look at, so how am I showing up for my clients? How am I
mhm,
showing up for me and what are some assumptions and what are some ways I've not been bold? What are some
mhm,
ways that I have not been fully authentically me, and what
Mhm,
has that done to my business, and how did that shape me as a leader, and what do I want to evolve to?
mhm,
And so the journey actually started as a parent, and
mhm.
really tapping into my kids as teens. So we
Yeah,
have two older boys, and recognizing that they're different, and so that was my mindset journey and my journey into evolution, and in terms of tapping into who I am on a deeper level. What are my non-negotiables, my boundaries, what excites me, what drives me. So it's
yeah.
it's been a journey.
Yeah, I hear definitely that it's been a journey, and for you
Yeah.
stepping into leadership and leading your family, right, in ways that were different because you have teens that are,
Yes.
growing and
Mhm.
changing and shifting. And when you think about the mindset and that being important for the leader in today's like climate and
Mhm.
organizational climate, I know you started with family and how that shifted for you and how you had to change things in order to be present for those growing young people. I think it's important to think about that when you start to think about organizations, right, and running an organization as well, because things change there, right? And you talked about
Yes.
that model and stepping into it. And I think the key point that you're bringing into this is that there's always going to be differences, right? You have four different children. There are always going to be constant change, right? With that growth and development. And that happens, yep, within families. It also happens
Mhm.
within organizations, right?
Mhm.
Um, there's just like raising teens, right? Because I understand I have
Mhm.
I have to.
Yep, I
There's
already know.
uncertainty,
Yes.
right? Right? They're starting to be complex and they are starting to grow fast and they're questioning and what we would have as a normal way of family dynamic and being, that is no longer, that's shifting. And I think that happens in organizations because there's rapid transformation. There's a lot of change. You have to keep up with the trends, right? And the shift of normalcy within how we used to do it changes.
It absolutely changes. It does. And, one of the things that we coach leaders on is as they're managing that change organizationally, part of what has to happen, especially with a mindset of the leader, is transparency.
Yeah.
You have to be able to communicate what is happening in a way that allows those who are working with you, working collaboratively and in the organization understand. And so
Mhm.
to the point of not only having transparency, it's also important to be clear.
Yeah.
And so, what does that mean for me? Folks want to understand how it affects them in
Mhm.
their organization, and
Mhm.
so the transparency, the clarity is important, and it's a really strong and important foundation for managing the change, for evolving, and also digging into the purpose.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was telling a client in a facilitation, I said, "Why did you click on submit application?" Because you were aligned with that organization. You believed in that organization's vision, mission, values, and
Mhm.
what they
Mhm.
were doing, both
Mhm.
internally and externally. So tap into that why,
Yeah.
right? Keep that centered, keep that at the core of why you're there so that as you're navigating the change that is in the organizations, there's
Mhm.
something to root you,
Mhm.
right? As you're
Mhm.
having these, as you're going through that. It's
Yeah,
important.
definitely. The rooting, the transparency that you're going through change because communication is important. The
Mhm.
clarity you shared and talked about as essential. I think that but that's also that mindset, right?
It
Because
is, it is.
the leader, you have to be ready for change and shift and being ready to go with the shift and to adapt,
Yeah.
right? And that clarity is piece, the transparency is an important piece. Staying grounded and rooted, right, is what you're sharing. And I also think about compassion.
Mhm.
Compassion.
Yeah.
This helps the leader to be able to navigate their mind, right? And the change and the shifts or whatever's happening within organization and or life in ways that serve better, right?
Mhm.
When you're developing, when you're growing, when there's shift and changes. Um, and I think that a lot of times the mindset, and we're talking about all these things that are important to have, and I think that's essential for us to talk about all these things that are important to have because no one knows what's ultimately happening next. We can strategize, we can come up with a plan, we can like start rolling that out. But when there's pressure, and I was talking with a client yesterday about a pressure based situation at work
Mhm.
and how the leader kind of missed the ball in that pressure, right? You have to be willing to adapt when there's pressure because how you choose to respond is important.
It's important. It is, and to the point of, as you were talking about compassion, it is important for us to remember the humanity in the way that we show up in the decisions that are made, that there are people behind these.
Yeah.
There are people behind not only the decisions, but the outcomes of those decisions.
Mhm.
And sometimes we forget that it's not just employee X. It may be, now I'm calling out a name, no name in particular, but how is Sarah affected,
Mhm.
right? What does
Mm.
it look like to, by making this policy, driving this decision, this procedure, by updating whatever it might be, who's most affected by this? What are
Mhm.
the humans behind this, right? We forget
Mhm.
about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do.
Who's affected? Who are the
Affected.
humans? How are
That's
they impacted by this? Because
that's right.
decisions are made without those questions being answered
Yeah.
on a number of occasions.
Mhm.
And then how does that impact? There's probably repercussions, and then you have to go back and reevaluate and come back because of the impact or how
That's right.
someone responded that may not have been what would work for the decision. So, right,
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
that you're rolling out and you have to roll it back
Yeah.
and recalibrate and
Yes.
redo and then re-put it out. So important to think
So
about how does this affect the person that would be working with it. And maybe last spring, I attended a systems thinking,
I
like
love
3-day
systems thinking.
workshop. Mhm. Where taking a look, where we took a look at that impact on every part or every piece of this or every community. How does this impact this? Because you have to you think about that in the beginning so you
Yeah.
can map out all of the scenarios that may happen as a leader and
Mhm.
what would be your solution to navigating that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so important to understand that the organization is the system, and the
Mhm.
people make the system work.
Yeah.
And when those components, that department, that team, that unit, those individual contributors start to, there's a fraction in there, then it starts to break down. The system no longer is valuable, it no longer works, and it's no longer sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
So so true. And I wanna ask you another question because I know you talked a little bit about this of like an example, and I want you to go a little bit deeper because
Okay.
you work a lot with leaders.
Mhm.
And in your work with leaders, what have you seen have been the most common limiting beliefs or mental blocks that you've seen them like holding them back from leading well or from the impact that they're here to make?
The biggest roadblock, and I think it can be attributed to mindset or assumptions, but is their ability to have so much weight on them and their ability to perform in the role.
Mhm. Mhm.
And folks forget that there are humans behind these titles.
Mhm.
And so living up to that, right? What does
Yeah,
it mean to live up to a director role or a C-suite or even a managerial role? That pressure that is put on them then to perform in a way that they think others want them to perform rather than them showing up as authentically as they can.
right. So you see people who are second guessing their ability.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. I think people are excited to get there. When you get
Mhm.
there, now what? Right?
Mm.
And so,
Mhm.
yes, can you
Mm.
do the role effectively? Number one.
Yeah.
Two, uh, I'm nervous about what this director role or this senior director role, is VP role, that visibility. What if
Mhm.
I mess up?
Mhm.
And so part of that is let's talk to some other leaders and talk about what these organizational assumptions are around how do you fail forward so that
Yeah.
people aren't scared to make a misstep,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
there are many nuances to what we see in organizations and it doesn't matter whether what industry because we've worked with corporate and higher
Mhm.
ed and government. There's still those nuances of can I do the work and what if I fail?
Oh,
And
yeah.
right? And so I'm like,
Mm.
well, number 1, what if you don't? Number 2, what does it look like if you fail? What resources would you need? What
Mhm.
do you need to be true as a leader so that you're not showing up leading from a place of what people expect of you
Yeah.
versus leading authentically, intentionality and with intention, right? I
Mhm.
think it's
Mhm.
important. So we see a
Yeah.
little bit of everything.
Yeah. Well, that belief in oneself is essential,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
aligning with that. And I'm wondering, like, because you talked about, uh, I think about that as fear, right? What if I
Mhm.
can't? Um, People also use the word scarcity mindset.
Oh,
So, how can a leader recognize when they're operating from fear or when they're operating from scarcity versus stepping into the vision and the purpose that they're here to lead and activate?
yeah. So one of the things that I actually talked about this yesterday, and as we move out of scarcity mindset into a more mindset of abundance,
Mm-hmm.
of I have everything I need to do my work, and if I don't, I will ask. Part of that is twofold. So as we
Yeah.
work with organizations and leaders, we're challenging on the leaders on what this organizational assumption is around leadership and failing forward. But two, I'm also and other consultants that are in our consultancy are coaching leaders on what does it mean to pause and reflect.
Yeah.
And we don't do enough of that because typically organizations are moving fast,
Mm-hmm.
meetings all day, um, firestorms,
Yeah.
leading, training, facility, all the things, right? And so,
Yeah.
what does it mean for a leader to actually be introspective? And I think that is important as
Yes.
we think about the mindset. Have we had an opportunity to slow down, stop, and pause? Typically,
Yeah.
no. What does it mean to actually build that into your day? And what does that mean for those leaders to build that into their day? And what does it mean for them to practice this, whether
Yeah.
it's daily, whether it is the Friday or morning, how Monday morning, how I want to show up, right? And so, really having an opportunity to be self reflective is key.
Yeah. Key. Introspection, self-reflection is so key. Okay.
It's critical. Yes.
Yes. And that helps you to get out of the mindset of fear, of scarcity, to moving towards your vision and your purpose because it is true, we have to imagine. We have an imagination,
Yep.
and we
Yep.
need to be activating on a regular basis. So what are you looking towards? What are you
Mhm.
visualizing? And I know we can talk a little bit more about
Yeah.
that. I get
Well,
excited.
I do too. And so here's the other thing that I'm leaning into that I have. I talked a little bit about it on LinkedIn, but
Mhm.
what does it mean to recalibrate? What does it mean to protect my energy?
Yeah,
What does it mean as a leader to protect your energy and how do you go about that?
yeah,
And not just protecting your time, right? Our time as leaders are crucial,
mhm,
but my energy is more important.
yeah,
And recognizing that rest is a part of your performance,
yeah,
right?
yes,
Resting is radical self-care to rest so that you can be in the right mindset and the
mhm,
right lens to lead in a way that you feel that I feel comfortable with
yeah,
that allows me to be authentically me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Rest, introspection, and I wanna talk a little bit more about these things in addition to a few others because my next question of what I wanted us to talk about is daily or weekly practices that will strengthen a growth-orientated mindset. Because we talked about, what doesn't work, but what growth mindset. How can leaders step into that? What can they do daily? What they can they do weekly? And I like that you shared that introspection. I think that's something that can happen daily in the morning or at the end of the day, right? Of what happened in the day, what worked, what didn't, what do you want to set your sights on moving forward for what's coming up next? Is it so important? And rest. Um, I, as a leader, I need a nap. I'm just going to just share.
Listen, that's okay.
I need a nap. So I need to get one in if I can in a day. I know it may be one day or maybe every other day, but I need to get in a nap. What else would you say that leaders need to do to strengthen their growth mindset?
Quiet time.
Mhm.
And what I have found is that when I am being challenged, not in a bad way, but I think challenging someone can be beneficial. It can be prove positive to allow one and myself as a leader to grow, allow leaders to grow. And so when I'm being challenged, how am I showing up and doing that gut check, right? We
Yeah.
talked a little bit about awareness,
Mhm.
but that it's that awareness of how am I feeling and what am I thinking about in this moment that allows
Mhm.
for the greatest opportunity for growth.
Mhm.
And so with a growth mindset, I'm thinking about not only that gut check, that
Mhm.
emotional intelligence, but I'm also thinking about in organizations and in mine especially, is there a better way to do it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is and sometimes that's difficult to think about because there's just times where I'm like, this is the way we've always done it, like other people and organizations do. But
Yeah.
is that most effective? And so how can I continue to grow and lift up other voices to provide input?
Mhm.
That also means tapping into folks that keep me accountable.
Mhm.
Right? Because I
Yeah.
can't grow if I can't not only be introspective and take the time to listen, but if I'm not tapping into people who give me their objective opinions about my thoughts about my business, and this goes for leaders too. What does it look like to have a mentor that pushes you toward that growth?
Mhm.
Right. So there's a lot of things that a leader can do to really build and foster that sense of having that growth mindset.
Definitely.
Mhm.
And I will add some things that you mentioned early on and we talked about is the workout regimen.
Mhm. Mhm.
If that's a weekly practice, every other day practice, 3 to 5, times out of the week practice, it is so essential to have that. But the eating healthy and the water intake or,
Water.
vitamin water or, coconut water, right?
Yes, people are like houseplants. We need sunlight and we need water. So do
Exactly.
those things, right? And some
Do those
movement.
things. And some movement.
Yes.
And one thing that I have done, I've been doing this for 2 years, 2 or 3 years, is that I have a group that I pull together, and we read a book. We deep dive on a book, and we meet weekly to, like, go deep, parse it out, incorporate that introspection, and what we're walking out. So I think the reading in education,
Yes.
um, and also what you mentioned as well is pulling together your circle of people.
Mhm. Find your
Mhm.
people.
Yeah, find your people.
Mhm.
Definitely. Um, do you have any examples of leadership or a leader who's transformed their mindset and what impact that had on their organization or their team? Like what ripple effect that they have on that innovation or that growth or what they were working with?
Yes. So, um, I do, without giving too much information away,
Mhm.
right? As I think about clients that we work with, one of the things that these particular sets of leaders have done is recognize through a growth lens and a mindset that the work and the way that they were going about their education in terms of learning and development, the way that they were going and understanding their own leadership wasn't it was more of the this is the way we've done it all along. And by having us in the organization doing deep data dives, working with their strategic planning, doing focus groups, they realized that the way that they said that they've always done it isn't the way that folks want it done.
Mhm.
And that's a hard thing to confront. That is a hard reality. Just think about it from the perspective of my kids. I don't want anybody to tell me that my kids aren't performing at a level that I know that they can excel at.
Mhm.
So when somebody tells me that, I'm feeling really tense in my body.
Yeah.
And so as a consultancy, as leaders ourselves going in and talking to other leaders to go, this is what is happening. This is what your employees are saying, but we can help you put a strategy together so that
Mhm.
not only are you successful in this shift that's going to happen, but we're going
Mhm.
to walk you through it. We're going to show you how to do it. And
Yeah.
we're going to help you evaluate the success of what that looks like. And so I think once leaders start to come around to go, okay, you got to pat them on the back and go, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah.
You're going to be fine.
It's gonna
Right.
be alright.
It's going to
Keep
be all
going.
right. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
And here's how I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna guide you through the process. We're gonna guide you through the process so you can be successful. We still gonna
Mhm.
hold your hand. We're gonna pat your back. You'll be all
Yes.
right. And I'm gonna
Yeah.
show you that you're gonna be all right. And here's how you're gonna be all right. Right. And so
Yeah.
you bring them along.
Definitely.
And when that transformation happens, there is magic. And I
Mhm.
will say that the transformation doesn't just happen in 6 months, right? This is something that it is a it's a marathon, not a sprint. So if
Yeah.
we're going to come into your organization, we're going to be intentional about the work we're going to do. We're
Mhm.
also going to be realistic about what we can do in what time frame,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? These are
Yeah.
multi-year steps to be intentional. You can't
Mhm.
say, okay, in 6 months, we're going to do this and end up here. That is not the way it works. It
Right.
takes people a long time to come around to change, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, you just have to work with leaders in that way.
Definitely, and you do have to work with leaders in the way, and I think the major key thing is the adaptability, mindset,
Adaptability
be
is, yes. Yes.
willing to go into that shift, to step into it,
Yeah.
because change is happening.
Hmm.
It is.
With or without you, it's gonna happen.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so your ability to adapt and to recalibrate is gonna be key.
Mhm. Definitely.
Mhm.
And, I'm wondering about the mindset of influence. Like we talked about adaptability, we talked about being ready, having a purpose, vision, a growth mindset. And when you look about the influence of a leader on culture, right, of
Mhm.
innovation, of trust, and belonging with an organization, how does the mindset of a leader influence that, influence the belonging, influence culture and trust?
That's a really good question. And, Trina, what I'll say is that as we think about the mindset, it really sets the emotional tone for the team,
Mhm.
right? I know that as a leader that we are going to have a critical conversation. I want to get as many perspectives as possible.
Mhm.
And so when people feel heard, seen, and valued, when you actually as a leader tap into the brilliance of your team, then your competitive advantage goes way up. We already know based on statistics and building business cases for why not only mindset and growth mindset is key, but inclusivity is key. And so when
Mhm.
folks feel included, that's important.
Yeah.
They then feel inspired to do their best work. The second thing, though, that I'll say is that, and I think you actually talked about this maybe 10 minutes ago, was that scarcity mindset. That doesn't work, right? And
No.
so if you're leading from scarcity, that we don't have enough time, we got to get this done, we don't have the right results, then that impacts your team. Then your
Yeah.
team starts to mirror that emotional response, that physical response, and then it shows up in the way that they perform and do their work. And so for me, that mindset is that emotional foundation, the tone of your team.
Yeah. Definitely. That mindset is the emotional foundation, the tone of your team. And you talked about inclusivity, including people, because people want to be included.
They
I think
do.
that's so key. and developing and working on that culture of trust, right? Of listening to folks, right?
Mm,
And allowing those voices to have a what do you say, an influence on innovation,
mhm.
and belonging, what's happened, like, it cultivates that, right, when you
Good.
listen to when you trust your team, and also I think about when you create a team that has, people who have different skill sets, right, that are present at the table,
Mhm.
who, may have different approaches to doing work, that if you're cultivating that, I think all of that creates an opportunity where leaders and organizations can step further into that growth.
Absolutely. And when people feel seen, valued, heard, that innovation, like you said, the
Mhm.
accountability, because that's the other thing. We want folks, right, as leaders. My role in coaching leaders is to help their team, help leaders and their teams be more effective. When people feel like they have a, an opportunity to have a voice in making decisions, even if the decision is made and they want that feedback, getting that feedback is important.
Yeah,
People feel a sense of personal accountability,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
When folks have that accountability, they feel that deep within their souls,
yeah, yeah,
then the results happen. That means then you know what? I made this mistake. I'm gonna clean it up. This is what I'm gonna do. This is how I'm gonna do it. It just there's a domino effect that
yeah.
happens.
Mhm, mhm. Definitely. That domino effect that's happening is a part of that organizational impact, right? And the
Yes.
growth. And I think that happens starting internally. Yeah, we
Mhm.
talked about with the mindset of the leader, with cultivating and bringing together a team and creating a culture of trust, of innovation, of belonging, but also the leader
Mhm.
feeling, I want to talk with you about this, feeling supported within the
Yeah.
organizations. And I'm wondering, in your from your perspective, what can organizations do better, right, in support of leaders, right, in developing internally? Because we have to start there, right? A lot of people want to see the external work and how this is, the bottom line or the end result, but we need to develop that internal capacity. So how can organizations support leaders better in this work?
So it's a couple of things.
Mm,
The first that I'll say is as you think about your mindset and the work that a leader does, an organization does, number one, having the understanding that, and I heard this before, that when you're working on transformational change, when you're working on your mindset as an organization and as leaders,
mhm,
that that landing the plane sometimes is impossible.
mhm.
That sometimes you got to stop at the landing of the stairs as we're thinking about moving up, right? It's a continuous improvement cycle that we're always going to be on. There's always going to be something that challenges our mindset that we have to remember to come back to why we're doing that work, come
Yeah.
back to the purpose, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And so building that muscle through consistency is going to be key. It
Yes.
is also then making sure that as leaders, you're aware that you know what? We haven't been the best.
Mhm,
And I think the first thing that allows you to say that is asking questions of your team.
mhm. Yeah.
That is how you build that awareness that you to make that drives that statement of we haven't been our best.
Mhm, mhm.
It is asking if you want to change and grow as a leader, how can I do it? The
Yeah,
best way is to ask folks,
yeah,
no matter how
yeah,
hard it's going to be, right?
yeah. Yeah, definitely, and I even think that organizationally, the organization can ask that question.
That's right. That's
Like, the
yes,
leaders in that like, "How
yes,
can we be a better organization? How can we better
exactly.
support our leaders of your team,
Mhm.
of your leaders? Like, what do you need from us?"
Yeah.
And some larger organizations, I do think it's really, really important to have health and wellness as a part of, which a lot of
Yes,
organizations do, and honoring that. Maybe
absolutely.
there is I know an organization that I work with that uh, gives out massages, like the monthly leader
Oh, I'd
is.
be at first in line.
See, you go self-care. This is what we want to promote for
That's right.
our leaders, for our folks. And I think that's so important because what that does is it lets the leader know that they're valued within your organization,
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
which is important to people, right? Like we talked about earlier, we are human, we are here. They want to know that you care and that you value them and that they're just not there helping you reach your end result.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. I got
Yeah.
a little bit excited about that one,
It's
but
okay. Listen, you got me a massage, so we're good.
yes. And, moving forward, I have, like, just a couple more thoughts about mindset of leader and this work, and when we're thinking about this with an organization, looking at leadership and maybe forward leadership
Mhm,
forward and over the next decade, what mindsets do you think will make the most
mhm.
successful leaders? What will pull that visionary leader into the place of really activating what they're needing to do? Yeah, what mindset do you think they need to have over the next decade?
As I think about leaders and the evolution of corporations where people are now purpose driven
Hmm.
and not just, I'm going to feed my family with this job, yes, but I'm clicking start application and submit application because I believe that it aligns to the organization. And so, where I think we're going in the next 10 years is really a values based focus of how does this value internally and personally align with the organization's values.
Yeah.
And what that means for a leader is, you know what? You got to tap into the person, not just the role and the tasks,
Mm,
right? And so, as we talk about people leaders, but what does that really mean? Are
yeah.
you really focused on the people that
Hmm.
you're leading in the organization and the impact that you as leaders have?
Hmm.
And same for me. I also think that in the sense that we are evolving, folks are holding businesses accountable.
Hmm.
And so, what does that accountability look like as a leader? And what does it mean to be transparent about the decisions that organizations are making?
Yeah.
Because now we're not just looking at people in the organization holding the leaders accountable, we're looking at consumers holding leaders accountable.
Hmm.
And so, consumers are saying, we want transparency. And if
Hmm.
you as a leader can't show that transparency and honesty, then we're out.
Yeah.
And so, how do you as a leader balance organizational objectives, consumer pressure? What does that look like? And so, as a consultancy, as we're working with leaders across these industries, we're talking about those things. What does it mean to be a people leader internally and externally?
Yeah.
What does it mean to have that spirit of transparency? Because the way you used to do work is not the way that you may need to continue to do that
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Definitely. Values.
Values,
Values.
key.
Uh, Very key, right? People, to focus on people,
Mhm.
accountability,
Yep.
transparency, right?
Mhm.
And being able to have these as a part of the process. That's what's going to, from your standpoint, really stand out over the next 10 years, over the next decade.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Outside of technology, technology will be here. It will evolve.
Mhm. Mhm.
It takes people to run the technology. There still needs to be people. You can't replace people. And so what are you going to do with the people that you have?
Yeah. Take care of them.
Take care of them.
Take
Give
care of
them
them.
massages. We
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And lunch,
And
right? Or
lunch.
maybe a company outing or a company lunch for
That's
sure.
right. That's right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and if you could, I know we're wrapping up here, you all, and I haven't seen any questions pop through. I know Dr. Kristen and I have been just going and talking, and
Mhm.
I have so appreciated this time with you. So thank you. And I want to know if you could leave our audience with one mindset shift that they could immediately implement, that could immediately change how the way they lead. What would it be and why?
Focus on yourself
Mm,
and focus on your biases that compel you to lead in the way that you do. We all have them.
yeah.
What does it look like to be aware of them? And what
Mhm.
does it look like to ask yourself, am I showing up in the best way possible for not only myself, but for
Mhm.
my team? Those would be my parting words. You cannot see others if you do not see yourself. And
Yeah.
so the work of a leader starts with the leader, not the people.
Yes. Starts with you. Uh-huh.
Starts with you.
Starts with you. I so get that. I so get that, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's coming full circle, with what you shared because that starting with you and what you talked about for you, the workout, right, of getting into that. That's one of the things that's so important is the self-care,
Mhm.
right? And taking care of yourself, being present with you, managing and regulating your emotions. I know there's still some leaders out
Yes.
there who haven't learned that well. It's
Yeah.
important to learn that emotional
It is.
regulation and
Yes.
the
Well,
ability to be present when needed.
absolutely. And you know what? Actually, the parting thing, you just made me think about our 8-year-old. And
Mm,
our baby girl says, "What fills my bucket? Mommy,
yeah,
this doesn't fill my bucket." And so I will ask the leaders, the people leaders, the dotted line, the individual contributors, what fills your bucket?
yeah,
What brings you joy? And do more of that so that you can show up as, and what are your KPIs? I
yes,
want you to be able to show up as authentically you, that you have tapped into your awareness, your softness, your fierceness, and really again, filling that bucket is key.
yeah.
If it doesn't fill your bucket, don't do it.
Yeah, so key. Yes, yes. I have a note for me that, that keeps coming in. If it's not an absolute yes, this is for me specifically just
Mhm.
because of how I show up, then don't move forward. For
Mhm.
me, if it's not an absolute lesson, I think about that energy of filling your bucket.
Mhm.
Make sure that you're doing that for you. Yes.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Dr. Kristen Morris, for joining us and for this conversation on mindset of a leader. Thank you for those who have tuned in live and who may be listening or watching the replay. Post your questions here. In the comment section. We'll come back and check them. And Dr. Kristen is CEO and founder of Genesis Consulting Services. And I'll make sure to post the link in the comment section so you can connect with Dr. Kristen Morris as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Take care.